beautiful day in New York today. We have a very special guest, Aaron, who is a lawyer, and he's been involved with the United Nations for many years, and he has a lot of experience in foreign policy and international relations. Also, he has family in Europe, and he knows about what's happening, the history of Ukraine. So why you think the war broke down, and why now?
Hello Nisha, nice to be with you. It is a beautiful day in New York, and here we are just in front of the United Nations, so your question is very relevant in time. The history of Ukraine and Russia goes back a long, long time, and I'm not going to go all the way back, but maybe we could start in 1922. In 1922, Ukraine was one of the founding countries, members of the Socialist Republic. The modern Ukraine, Nishat, starts in 1922, when it was one of the founding members of the Soviet Socialist Republics, along with Russia and Belarus. Member of the Security Council from 1948 to 49, and I think another term in the 1950s. And then we go a little bit forward to 1954, because people may not have realized that Nikita Khrushchev, who was then the head of the USSR, was a Ukrainian. And it was at his period in 1954 where he recognized that Crimea should be part of Ukraine. And that's when the Crimea came into Ukraine. During the period afterwards, like much of Eastern Europe, when the Soviet Union fell apart, the three signatories to the breakup of the Soviet Union were, in fact, Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia. So there again, Ukraine was recognized as an independent state. And life went on in the rocky road of Eastern Europe into the 1960s, into the 2000s, really up to the 2013 and 2014, when the Ukraine was going through various periods where it was leaning to the east to Russia, to the west to the European Union, and the country had to make some very important choices. Among the choices that it made was in 2013, a referendum showed that 90% of the country overall wanted to remain an independent state, and 56% of even those in the east. Now, this didn't sit very well with Vladimir Putin, who came to power during that period of time. And he progressively has been very outwardly saying to the world that he thinks that Russia should recreate in many ways what had been the USSR. And what he has been doing over time, initially in Georgia, and later on in Moldova and beyond, looking to reintegrate parts of what had been USSR into what is now Russia. And most recently, to bring us up to date, because of many twists and turns in Ukraine and other politics, of course, but right up to date, when the election in 2019 of the current president, Zelensky, decided that he really wanted to move toward the West, initially in combination with Lithuania and Poland. There was a Lublin agreement, so-called, where the three of them aligned themselves. This did not sit well with Vladimir Putin. And he then, in 2014, brought Russian troops into the eastern part of the country, the Donetsk and Luhansk area, and that began a war, which is the actually beginning of the war, which is on now. People who thought the war began on the 24th of February 2021, actually it began in 2014, with Russia having brought the troops into the eastern part of the country.
So you mean that because President Zelensky wanted to be part of the EU, and he was more open to the West instead of listening to President Putin, that's how the war broke down, right?
Correct, because it really became extreme that it was clear that under Zelensky, the Ukraine really wanted to be part of the rest of Europe, along with its neighbors to the west rather than its neighbor to the east. And this did not sit well with Vladimir Putin, and he has done what he's done in other parts of Eastern Europe, in Georgia, in Moldova, Belarus by bringing troops in to enforce what he thinks is the right of Russia to control those areas.
So what now? What do you think, is the international community doing enough, giving sanction or isolating Russia? And we don't want this war to go for a long time. So what we can do as a community, and also the people here who are abroad, who are Ukrainian?
I think what we need to do is on many levels. Obviously, not all of us are going to get in the middle of a war between two countries, but I think we need to express ourselves as to our strong feelings of people being able to decide their own destiny. We need to provide humanitarian relief and support. With regard to the actual battlefield situations, I think the Ukrainians have done an amazing job in defending themselves. And you have some good history and some bad history. You have good history where countries have decided to defend themselves and been successful. So hopefully that degree of success would come to Ukraine with as much support as we can give, moral support, physical support, and as my relatives and others in Europe have done, to actually give personal support by bringing things to the Ukraine and taking Ukrainians into their own homes and homelands.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today in this beautiful day. And we really had to know, for the young people here in New York and around the world, what's actually happening and how the Ukraine-Russia conflict lead to this devastating war. Thank you, Aaron.
You're welcome, Nishat. And your point is really important. It's the young people of the world that have the opportunity and the responsibility to do the right thing for all the young people of the world. In the case of Ukraine immediately, but the rest of the world as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Nishat Mirza from Turkey.